Good morning, everyone. Welcome back and happy Sunday. So, wow, I've received a few emails and messages within the past 24 hours. I was a bit surprised. I was like, wow, okay. You guys are giving me things to talk about, more things to talk about. So, I am going to address an email that I received from someone regarding a relationship that they're in. It's an interracial relationship. And they want me to talk about black family and their acceptance or denial of cuckolding in relationships. I think this is a really loaded topic. So I'm going to talk about that. I do also have another video following that, so you guys got to come right back in. Like I said, I've received several inbox messages, yo, and emails, like, within a span of like 24 hours, and let's go for it. Like, I'm excited about it. I'm here for it, you know. I like when you guys send me email messages, especially as it relates to your own personal experience on very interesting topics. So I'm here for it. And I know you guys are here for it as well. So let me open up the email. First, I'm going to read you guys the email that I received prior to that. I got this email yesterday at 4:26. And it comes from, this person has a UK email address, right? So I'm like, the UK. You mean to tell me cuckolding has made its way across the pond, all the way in the UK? It's interesting because I actually was going to be in London, you guys. I actually was going to do my PhD over there in the UK, and I decided to choose Los Angeles, California instead. So I just think it's interesting when I get correspondence from people over there in the UK. Anyway, sometimes I wonder, and I've said this before, sometimes I wonder the validity of these stories that you guys are sharing with me, because it just sounds kind of made up-ish, kind of Jerry Springer-ish on one hand. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Steve Harvey, but I think at one point on his radio show he had this thing called the Strawberry Letter, and his listeners would write to him about different issues they were facing. He would call it the Strawberry Letter as a segment that he did on his radio show. And sometimes the stories are like, what? So bizarre. It's just hard to believe that it's actually true. But you never really know. You never really know, because we are fascinating people, yo. And the things that we go through in life will be mind-blowing, can be very mind-blowing. So I'm just going to read you guys this short email that was sent. Not really related to the topic of cuckolding, but I just thought it was kind of funny in a way. So we'll open up with this email. I'm just like, what? You know, you just get some things and you're like, what? All right, so he says, females rarely email me. And I noticed, like, in terms of my demographic makeup, because I look at my analytics on YouTube, yo, over 90, what was the specific percentage? I think it was like 98% of my viewers are men. And my channel has like 500,000 views. I'm just like, yo, where are the women? Why don't women, but I guess it has to do with the topics, but still, women should be able to relate to the things I talk about. I mean, I'm a woman, so I would think that women would watch me, but it's men. I want more women to watch me and to message me. But anyway, he says, hello, Danielle, you are so right about white men wanting to be dominated by black women. That wasn't me who said that necessarily. I was just responding to an email that was received related to the topic of black female domination over white men. But maybe I shared my opinion on it. Sometimes, you guys, I be forgetting what the hell I said in some videos. So it might be helpful if you guys are referencing, let's say, previous videos that I made. It might be helpful maybe to include like a quote that I said, because I'm just like, what did I say? All right. He says, I'm a white boy from the UK. Boy or man? Okay, let's be clear here. My videos are for adults only, okay? You better be a man, right? Who just identifies as a boy. I remember somebody sent me an email saying they want me to talk about sissy boys. Just like, alright. I'm a white boy from the UK, and I have been in awe of superior black goddesses since I was young, and an older black girl made me kiss her bum. For a while, when I was at school, a gang of older black girls used to do degrading things to me, like flushing my head in the toilet and spitting in my face. One of the black girls used to fart in my face a lot. Ugh. Out of all of the freaking degrading things you want to have done to you, why this, right? Now, as I was reading this email, part of it kind of read as though he was the victim, right? I'm just like, seriously. And then part of it could read like, this is things that he desired. Like he encouraged these activities by these so-called black women, right? And I'm just like, really? What is the likelihood? Like, I guess it's hard for me to really see something like this happening. You just don't see this, right? Like, this is just not something that you see. Only time, I guess I'm thinking about what happens in the U.S., right? Because when we think about instances of interracial violence, because this is considered to be violence through the eyes of most people, right? Think about interracial violence where the black person, let's say, is the perpetrator and the white person is the victim, so to speak. Usually the violence has been provoked, right? Because I've seen videos where, like, for example, black girls will lash out and beat the shit out of other white girls, right? But it's usually after the white girl has approached the black girl and triggered her and antagonized her, and then the black girl just like, all right, set her book bag down and let loose on that white girl, yo. You get what I'm saying? So it happens. Where yes, you do see interracial violence, where the black person is the aggressor, right? I mean, I can recall my own personal experience. I haven't really shared this story. It's a lot of stories that I have in my arsenal, but I haven't really shared because I talked about it in my book, American Dreamer, which I have yet to release. But I will do a little bit of self-disclosure. So yes, there was a situation where I was in middle school, and my cousins, right? I had male cousins, and I used to be like a tomboy. I used to like to hang with the boys, and so my cousins kind of peer pressured me. And this is not uncommon amongst teenagers, right? Just kind of like, I bet you won't do this, I bet you won't do that, I bet you won't, right? And this is after my mom and dad had separated when I was 12 years old, and I moved to live with my mother, like 30 minutes out from my dad. And it was an all-white school. So I transitioned from an all-black school where when I was living with my mom and my dad both together, I was attending an all-black school. And then when my mom separated from my dad, we went to a predominantly white school. And so, of course, there were black children that attended the school, and my cousins boosted me up to fight a white girl. I had nothing against white people. Not necessarily, right? Um, and they're like, I bet you won't. I bet you won't do it. And it was kind of like you know how like gangs, they kind of test each other's bravado by saying, oh, go do this, go do that. And if, you do it, it's just like, okay, you get stripes, you get cool points, right? And so that's kind of what the situation was. They dared me to go and fight a white girl, and I did it. I went, and I was such a small, teeny little person. I mean, I did pick on some pounds, but I was like, I was skinny and bones, I was skinny and bones, and this white girl was kind of voluptuous, like she was thick. I think she was probably taller than me too, but like back then, I had such courage, such boldness. Like, I was so fearless, and I'm still the same way. Like, nothing really scares me that much, right? At least not people. And so I just went up and I just like I started to hit her and punched her, and we were fighting. She was fighting back, and I remember, like, because of her size, like, she kind of like picked me up and like slammed me on the desk, and I'm like punching her. And then finally, like, they separated us or whatever, and we got sent to like in-school suspension. I was just like, oh my gosh. Funny enough though, when my mom got the story about that situation, she did not discipline me. I was just like, interesting. And you guys can hear where I talk about my mom disciplining me in other scenarios, but that one I did not get disciplined. Interesting enough. So I guess it does happen. I mean, I guess you can't rule it out necessarily. There are situations where, yes, black women can, I guess, be bullies in a way. It happens. I don't know what the UK is like. I really don't know much about the UK other than what I shared with you guys earlier, how I actually was about to do my PhD studies out there. I was in talks with a few of the admissions counselors for a few very prominent universities out there, and I was like this close. Like, I was like, but I chose to go to LA instead. Imagine how different my life would be if I did go to the UK, though. I don't know what the racial makeup in the UK is like, but I would imagine there were far less black people in the UK probably than there are here in the US. But flushing your head in the toilet and spitting in your face, farting in your face, you liked it apparently, Think about this, because situations like this will only happen one time. Now, yes, I can admit that I have been a bully to other students in school, but I also have been bullied, right? And one thing I know about being bullied is that all it takes is that one time, All it takes is one time. One time for a person to try you, right? And bullying usually happens with an audience. That's the whole point of bullying, right? To show people that, like, you're just this big bad person, to get approval, like to build a reputation for yourself by enacting harm or threatening someone else, you know what I'm saying, making them feel intimidated, to make yourself feel strong in front of a group of people, right? Because it's, high school is really all about acceptance, approval, reputation. That's what it's all about during those years, and it's such a stressful period of time, right? But I remember being bullied, and this was actually, I was in the 6th grade, actually. This was when my mom and my dad were still together, and I was attending an all-black school. And a woman, like, well, I don't want to say a woman, but it was a girl, but her body was like a woman, like kids, and even back then and still today, like, black women mature very fast, right? A lot of my classmates at the time were, like, developed physically, developed, had breasts, already had their menstrual cycles. Now, at that time, I didn't get mine until I was 16 years old. But we're talking about around the age of 12 years old when I was in 6th grade. Like, there was this girl, her name was Queen. I cannot make this up, right? And my mom and dad lived in walking distance from the school where I went to. And we lived in a house. But a significant number of the children who attended the school in that neighborhood, those schools, we had an elementary school, middle school, and a high school, all in the same neighborhood. Majority of those kids who attended the school, they lived in the projects, right? And so, leaving the school, we took the same back road, but then we were split. So the kids who lived in the projects will go one direction, and I and other people who lived in the houses in the neighborhood will go a different direction, yo. So I'm walking, and we're all kind of I usually by myself, right, in my own little zone, and this girl approaches me, and just I want to fight you. And I talked about this before in one of my earlier videos, way back when I first started YouTube. And she was like, I want to fight you. And I'm like, okay. But when I can't even lie, yo. When she approached me, yes, there was a change in my heart rate, yo. There was a change in my heart rate. But I stood my ground because I think she wanted me to suck her and just leave and run. And I'm just no. I stood my ground. I'm like, okay, you want to fight me? And I stood there. I stopped. I didn't keep walking because some kids will run all right, I'm scared. I'm going to run. I don't want to get beat up. No, I stood there. I'm just whatever happens, happens. I will fight back for sure. But she bullied me. And one thing I know for sure, by me standing my ground and allowing her to feel my energy, because you have to let people feel your energy, right? She feel my energy. That situation just took a turn. She never fucked with me again. If anything, she had respect for me. So when I read this, it kind of reads initially on, like I said, on one hand, it kind of reads as though it could be perceived as bullying, but then he's saying as if in the context of humiliation and being dominated by black women, and him having a fetish towards this, having he likes this, right? He says, now as an adult, I love being humiliated. He says now though, but he's talking about a story that happened back then, right? And it sounds as though it's something that was recurring, or did it just happen once, or a few different incidents? Are you saying in terms of this story? Could be a few different incidents, but it's just interesting. And I think, of course, obviously he saw my videos where I do link earlier childhood experiences to how we are as an adult, because there's obviously there's a connection. So he's basically along those same lines, right? Along the same conceptualization of tying early childhood experiences to adult fetishes, saying that these black women play a major role in why he likes to be humiliated by black goddesses. He liked it, but he liked it back then though, right? It's not okay, he developed a fetish or a liking towards being humiliated by black women as an adult. He probably made sense of it, right? He began to look back and think about it as an adult. But it's something in him, right? Something that was in him when he was younger. He had to like it. He liked it as a child. When this was he liked it. Part of him probably didn't like it, but part of him probably did like it. You had to. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Because you're not about to sit up here and tell me that you let those girls do that to you and you did not like it. No, majority of us wouldn't like it, right? Majority hell no. Who fuck wants their head flushed in the toilet and spit in their face and fart in their face? But if these were attractive women and you already had an attraction towards black women and they were doing these things to you, part of you probably liked it. What do y'all think? Y'all think he liked it? Part of him probably liked it. Being touched in that way, in an aggressive way. He says, I know that I am inferior and black goddesses are superior. I believe that as a superior being, a black goddess has the right to order me to kiss her bum or to use my mouth as her toilet whenever. See, he likes that shit, yo. Don't try to sit up here and put it on the black girls for the reason how this fetish got developed within you. Nah, you already like this shit, yo. And it could be my own bias, yes, but, you know, white people, and I'm making, of course, a generalization, right? This is not all white people. But you do see a trend within white people where y'all be doing some different stuff. And things that y'all get hyped off of, we just like, what the hell? Like that whole peeing on a person. And I know they say R. Kelly did that shit or whatever. Peeing on a person and defecating. White people be getting off on shit like that, yo. It's just, y'all are different. You're very different. Very, like, things that you guys like to do is just kind of tapers along the lines of kind of inhumane. And it's just like, okay, I don't want to judge, but some things are just unsafe, though. Putting your head in a toilet. Like, think about that. How contaminated toilets are, right? It's not like it's a clean toilet or a brand new toilet. It's a freaking toilet that people have used and shitted in. And it's not clean, clearly. And you're talking about getting off on that and spitting in your face. Like, how degrading is that? Yo, imagine if someone spit in your face. Just imagine being on a train, right? Or waiting in line at a restaurant or a grocery store and somebody just spit on your freaking, like, yo, that would make you want to kill somebody. And you probably would get locked up. You probably couldn't even, like, you wouldn't even win that case in court to say, oh, it was self-defense, because they spit on you, right? Which doesn't seem like a big of a threat as you fucking banging their head in and giving them a concussion or a traumatic brain injury or some shit, right? So that would be fucked up. But it's just like the level of grossness when someone spits in your face. That is fucking disgusting, yo. But I just think this email was kind of funny. I mean, I laugh, and I don't know, it kind of disgusted me reading this email. I just thought it was funny, but I am going to get into the reason for this video right now. That's my response. You guys want me to respond? That's my response. That's all I have to say, really, on that one. But check this out, yo. Y'all be writing me whole freaking essays that could turn into dissertations, yo. I'm just like, God damn. And this is one that I'm going to do in this video. Like I said, after this video, come back, because I'm going to make another video on penis size. Someone has sent me some messages, some very heartfelt, transparent, you know, messages where they were very vulnerable in those messages. And I'm just like, I have to address this. But yo, like the level of depth and oh my gosh, this person wrote a lot. I'm not going to read this person's name, but he introduces himself and then he says, and you are one of the YouTubers' content that I keep up with. The reason for this is because you are one of the few black African-American women that I have seen talk or acknowledge the cuckold type of relationship. I'm a Hispanic man with parents from Mexico. My wife is a black woman. Mexican and black. Interesting mix. We have been married for 10 years now. Yo, 10 years, that's a long time to be with somebody. The same person that you wake up to every freaking morning for 10 years. Wow, yo. We are in a cuckold relationship and have been for some years now. Okay, so basically it's already established. It's not like you're trying to convince her to try out this new thing that you have a fetish for. She's already in. So this is how this situation here this story differs from a previous story, because I started to read this and I'm like, okay, this sounds familiar, but it's different. He says for some years. He didn't say how many years. At least not right there, but he says they've been married for 10 years and they've been in a cuckold relationship for some years. We were introduced to this lifestyle from just exploring sexually in the bedroom as a couple and enjoyed this type of relationship and therefore stayed in it. We didn't know there was a name for this type of relationship. Interesting, yo. Peter says interest. Exactly. We're thinking along the same lines. It's interesting. Peter, where are you from? Nigeria? I don't know. You have a different last name. Or unique last name, shall I say. It starts with exploration. I like that. I like the way this email opens up. I like it. It's just very inviting. That's why I don't mind responding, because some emails like that, I'm just like, what? But yeah, I like the way it opens up. I mean, it kind of sounds like the perfect love story, because it just kind of sounds like, you say, yes, you're from Nigeria. Yeah. I have a lot of people who follow me from Nigeria. Yeah, I was just in Brooklyn yesterday. I'm sorry, you guys. I am very tangential, but I was in Brooklyn yesterday, and actually this is where I got this dress from. So I found this store, and it wasn't the first time I went there. It was like, I went there, it's been a couple months, right? And a Nigerian woman owns it, and I knew she was Nigerian. I guess how I knew she was Nigerian. It's just the weirdest thing. Her skin was bleached. I knew she was Nigerian because that's very popular within Nigerian culture, right? But she's a very like homey type of person. She's very like welcoming, right? She has a store in Brooklyn, you know, and I did purchase a few things when I went there the first time, and then I went back yesterday. I was just in the neighborhood and I stopped in, and you know, I purchased this nice dress. I love this dress, right? But we talk, you know, she's very talkative, and we're talking, and she's really fun too, because like we can relate to it. She's in her 30s, I'm in my 30s, so of course we relate as women. We're talking about men and trials and tribulations and stuff, dealing with men and stuff like that. And she knows, of course, that I just finished my PhD studies. And she was like, oh, you finished? I was like, yeah, because when I first came, I was still in the program. But, you know, now I'm closer to finishing. Only thing I have left is to finish my internship hours, which will be done next month. And so she was like, oh, congratulations. She was like, oh, maybe you can give me some counseling or some. I laugh. I always laugh when people say that. Oh, you can give me some therapy, some counseling, right? I'm like, you're good. But it's just this. It's just, yo. I wish that I could have recorded. And I told her that, you know what, I got to come back and I want to interview you for my documentary. Yes, I am going to make a documentary, and it's going to be related to my research study on Black identity, acculturation, and implicit racial bias, because this is big, yo. I'm just like, looking at her, yo, it's very like unsettling. It's just, it makes me feel uncomfortable, right? But yo, this is what I do. I work in the field of mental health, so I've been exposed to a lot of abnormal shit, right? But the skin, yo, the skin. I'm like, that looks so painful. Why do that to yourself? And she says it is painful. It's like the cream. I'm like, why? And she's like, but I can't stop. I say, why? Is it addictive? She was like, well, I sell it. And that's just the way she makes her money, or at least part of the way. She's a hustler, you know. She has a store, so she sells like African garments and accessories. She also does hair. And she sells this cream, and apparently she makes really good money from it, because she was like, I can't stop. I mean, I'm like, okay, apparently your ass can't stop, because listen, you already went too far. So her face is completely a different complexion, yo. Right? Now, when I first saw her a couple months ago, her face was like one complexion. Her hands a different complexion. Her hands have lightened up a bit. But it's just like, it's like her face looks like very pale and like a ghost. It's scary, yo. And I'm just like, why do this to yourself, yo? Why? Ugh. That's a whole nother freaking video right there. But it's just, it does something to me, yo. It does something to me. People just not, like, accepting who they are. So that's how I knew she was Nigerian. Everyone, every culture we have our issues, right? But that's a problem. That's problematic, you know. And she's like, oh, well, the men, they like women with lighter skin. That could be true, yes, but that don't mean you change your freaking skin, because there are men who like darker women too. We're gonna get into that's a whole nother video. Like I said, come back, because I'm gonna make a video about penis size in the next video. I have to go. I got a inbox message. So going back to this, yes, I like the setup. I like that this couple says, you know, he says that they explored and then they enjoyed it, and that the fact that they were both in on it, right? So he's not trying to manipulate her, convince her, persuade her, like she was already in on it. They both enjoyed it, right? Perfect. They didn't know they didn't know there was a name for this type of relationship. Cuckold. I mean, there's a name for everything. I didn't even know there's a name for freaking what I'm into, right? You know, the umbrella of BDSM. I didn't know, but I'm like, oh, okay, there's a whole culture surrounding bondage and being dominated. Okay. So he says, nevertheless, I am emailing you to ask you about your opinion on the black community's view of cuckold relationships. Me and my wife have had conversations about this in the past and some recently. She has mentioned that she feels she can't really tell her family or friends about the type of relationship she is in because she will be looked at in a weird way or in a bad way. Majority of her friends are black and have been her friends most of her life and part of her childhood friends too. Now, I'm going to finish reading this email, but it concerns me. Number one, you guys are married. While being married, you decided to explore an activity, right? An alternative activity that I think a lot of people are partaking in. They just don't openly talk about it. But you guys have partaken in it, and you're talking about it, right, openly, which is it's a good step to be able to just be and to talk about it and also be heard, right? To not have to keep it a secret necessarily, to hide it. And so I pause right here because it makes me wonder, like, why do you need approval? Why are you concerned about what other people think? But then one can also say, how do you participate in such of a thing that has a negative connotation or stigma attached to it and not feel ashamed? Because I'm wondering, is it more like his email, right? Is it more about wanting validation, seeking approval from family, particularly black family, her side of the family? Or is it more about just wanting to not feel ashamed of what you do? Because perhaps that part of your reality, you would rather just live openly and not have to feel like you got to go out of your way. Because I'm wondering, like, are you really going out of your way to hide it? Because cuckolding, when you think about it, I mean, yes, it may have some like intimate undertones to it, right? Intimate not meaning sexual, but meaning like just the closeness that you feel with your partner. It has some psychological underpinnings to it, right? But I think when people think about cuckold, it's really sexual, right? And so when we're talking about a sexual aspect of a relationship being kept private and wanting to see how other people perceive the sexual part of your relationship, that's where I think I got a bit confused, because I'm like, is it really other people's business? Like, why do you even want family members to know about what happens in your bedroom? Because we're talking about bedroom activities, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong so that we can be clear and we can understand each other, but I mean, I get it. Like, there's a part of, humanity, of us all, that we just want to feel understood. We don't want to have to live like in a closet, right? You want to just be able to come out, and you want to be embraced for this alternative lifestyle. That would be great. If family could just be like, oh, I mean, they know your wife already, so that's not, that wouldn't be a new introduction, but it's just the dynamic that you and your wife share, this new discovery. And it's something special about, I think, discovering something, right, with someone that you love. And not only discovering it, but also being able to share it with other people. Right? So I think that's what you're saying. Versus having to keep it like, we discovered this wonderful thing. We're having such a great time. We both enjoy it. But then we gotta keep it a secret because we are concerned about what her family thinks. What about your family, though? So let's keep reading. She has mentioned that she feels like the reason is that there's sometimes this underlying expectation for black women to be with a strong and dominant man. She said growing up that she was always encouraged to be with a black man. But her family has already met. Come on, y'all been married for 10 years now. Y'all had a wedding, right? Or did y'all go off and elope somewhere? Because y'all been married for 10 years. So her family knows that you're Mexican, right? So by now, I would think, by now they would have accepted you, so to speak. It's kind of fucked, like the idea of needing to be accepted, but lack of a better word. I mean, you've been introduced to her family. I would imagine 10 years together, you've been around her family, she's been around your family, so they know that you are a Mexican man. Let's keep reading. I'm not a dominant or strong man. I'm more submissive, sweet type of guy. A lot of Mexican men are just sweet. They are. I've been around, obviously, living in Los Angeles, and even like when I order delivery, I live in New York City, so I do order delivery. Oh my gosh, a lot. And a lot of the delivery guys are Mexican, and they are sweet. They're so like respectful. I guess it's just how they were raised. They're like, "Hi, how you doing?" I mean, of course it could be part of the job, but not necessarily, because you got a delivery driver. They don't give a fuck about your ass. They just like, tip, give my tip. They don't even speak, right? But it's just a different energy, I think, that I feel like when a Mexican man shows up and he hands me my food versus like other delivery guys. They are sweet. She said she fell for me because of how sweet and caring I am. They are submissive. I think because they're like, their mothers are very kind of strong-headed, dominant women. I think so are their fathers too. So they just have been raised to be agreeable and well disciplined. Put it that way. I am not well endowed at all. Actually, I'm extremely small, so I cannot provide in the bedroom. You cannot provide at all? Ah. I mean, come on now. You're not impotent, right? You don't have erectile dysfunction. I wouldn't, like, you didn't say that. You're just speaking in relation to the size. You can still perform. This is one of the reasons why we are in a cuckold relationship. Okay, I get it. She does have sex with black men only because she is attracted to dominance in the bedroom, but she comes back to me for the love part of the relationship. Now, I guess this is just where I find it hard to believe, and I feel like it's just some strawberry letter type shit. Because it's just like, seriously, come on, seriously. Is this what really is happening in your relationship? I mean, it's hard to believe that a woman would stay with a man that she's just not sexually satisfied with, and that she has to go outside of the relationship to get satisfaction. But if you're so overcompensating for your lack in the bedroom to the point where you're just very nurturing. I don't know if you provide like financially for her. You take care of her. You all have kids together. You know, you do like the stay at home husband duties or daddy duties or whatever. Like all of this stuff that you're doing to overcompensate could be reason for her to want to stay, because a good friend is a good friend. You know, y'all are married, but at the core, if you're a good person, you can be a good friend to her. And people don't usually cut off good friends, right? If you're a good person, you're a good friend. Despite your lack in the bedroom. Because I've actually dated a guy for 5 years. We didn't have sex because he was like fucking asexual. But he was a really fucking good ass friend. He was a good friend, so it was just hard for me to cut him off. Because he's just such a good person. I mean, loyal. Like, he's there. He's committed. He's there, right? So maybe you're that type of person. So she just can't get rid of you, though you don't serve, you don't fulfill her in the bedroom. And that's only one aspect of a relationship. Sexual is only one aspect, but it seems that a lot of men apparently they blow it up. They make it a big deal, and it's become a significant part of who they are, and them being able to validate themselves as men, validate their dominance. He says, I am not a dominant man, but there are many things that make a man dominant, though, other than what's between his legs, or him being able to deliver properly in the bedroom. There are many things, like if you are head of household, that will make you dominant. You're taking care of home, that makes you dominant. If you're opening doors for her, right? If you are like the primary person in the relationship making the decisions, that would make you dominant. But he says he's not. He's more submissive, sweet type of guy. I mean, if that works, maybe you just happy to be with a woman, a black woman. So here are his questions. He says, do you feel like her growing up is somewhat common in the black community? Now that question is kind of incomplete. Do you feel like her growing up is somewhat common? Her growing up like what? Okay, like being encouraged to marry a black man. I think that's common in not just a black community. That's common across different ethnic groups and nationalities, like in cultures. That's common. I mean, people marry other people who look like them and act like them and talk like them, and the family, of course, reinforces that, right? Because if you bring home someone who doesn't look like you, like, what kind of looks are you getting, right? Imagine me as a black woman. My family lives in Florida. I'm about to go visit pretty soon. I'm going to take you guys with me. But imagine I go down there with the white man, hugged up with the white man. Surprise, surprise. Mom, I'm back home. Yo, I know my family. That would be the talk of the fucking town, yo. Now, they will talk anyway. I can come home with a black man. They still gonna talk, right? Like, oh, you see that? Yeah, boyfriend. You see who she with? But if it's a white man, it's really gonna be the talk, right? Because he's different. And my mom, funny enough, she had the nerve to ask me when I talked to her a little while ago. She was like, no, this was, I think, back when I was in a relationship. I was dating this guy, I think, around the holidays, who I showed you guys, right? And I told my mom, I went on a few dates. She was asking me, what, how my holidays was, what I was doing. I said, yeah, going out on a date. And she was like, oh, he ain't white, is he? I'm like, that caught me off guard, because I'm like, okay, why would you think he's white, though? For her to even ask me that question, like, to think, like, where are you getting this from to even think that I would be attracted? Like, I never brought home a white man, ever. Like, I did date a white guy. This was, like, I think freshman year in college. My mom doesn't know about him because that was a very short-lived relationship. But, for her to even think that I would bring her, like, what? But I just think that's interesting. But it made me think, like, okay, but what if? Y'all know me, like, I like to do dare shit. What if I was to bring home a white man, I mean, for me, this is me, right? I don't give two shits of what a motherfucker think, right? Like, I'm gonna do me regardless. But on the other hand, I get it, right? And I have to I just said that, but I'm gonna have to retract it. Because I do care, right? I do care to the extent when it comes to the black community, because as a person, as a woman who is pro-black and Pan-African, and people do look up to me, right? Now, I'm not famous, but there are people who look up to me. Yes, it does matter who I choose to date, who I choose to procreate with in terms of their race. It matters. And one thing about the black conscious community, they will hang your ass. Not literally, like on a tree hang you, but that will be the end. That will be the end of your fucking career. That will be the end of your leadership as a pro-black leader or an advocate for black people if you marry outside your race. I just want y'all to understand that. It is a big deal. Understand that. It's a big deal, right? Because they look at it as a contradiction. Like, you cannot be walking around here saying you love black people, you're for the black community, you're fighting for but yet this is who you marry? Yo, they will stone your ass. It has happened over and over. I've seen it happen over and over again. You just cannot do it. They call you a sellout. You get all kind of names. For females are called bed wenches. Who the fuck want to be called a bed wench? You know what a bed wench is? It has a historical reference. So bed wenches were the black female slaves who warmed the bed of the slave masters, the white slave masters. Now, like I said, I haven't dated a white man. At least not recently, right? This was like one time in my entire life back in my freshman year of college. I don't even think that really counts. That was just whatever. But yet, I did make a video on exploring interracial relationships, especially when I was living out in Hollywood, California, that in the neighborhood is predominantly white. And so it does impact my dating options based on the proximity of the people that I have interaction with and exposure to, right? And so I talked about those different factors and dynamics in terms of choosing a partner and the difficulty that I was facing. I mean, anybody who knows LA, you just know what the dating market is. You just know, right? The dating market in LA for a black woman is much different than the dating market here in New York City for a black woman. Look at the racial demographics, okay? Just look it up. Black people, I think, in fact, make up 1/3 of the population. I think in New York City, if I'm not mistaken. Very different percentage than LA, which is I think only 11%. It's different, yo. It's different, okay? So I made a video on, the possibility of interracial dating. And just me speaking openly, like open-minded, right, about interracial dating. I fucking got attacked. Yo, the comments in that video was crazy. They attacked me. I got called all kinds of names, bed wenches, and this is just me making a video. So can you imagine if I stepped out with a white man, what that shit would look like? So, tying it back into this email here, are certain black communities culture somewhat conservative when it comes to having a different type of relationship like cuckold relationships? It's different in terms of interracial, but we're talking about cuckold. That's that's a niche type of relationship, right? And it's really kind of linked to sex. Honestly, I don't think black people give a fuck about who you fucking. I mean, or not. Let me take that back. Not who you fucking, but what you doing. Like having sex is just very common in the black community. People don't really care about that, right? So I guess to a certain extent, they don't really care like who you fucking, but yeah, they do care about like who you commit to. So fucking and commitment is two different things, right? So yeah, if you're married, if a black woman marries a white man, that's a big deal in the black community. But if she's just wait, did I say that right? If a black woman marries a white man, that's a big deal. Yeah. But if she's just fucking, you can tell the difference. Or using white men, for example, And in this case, she's with a Mexican. Black people are more accepting of black people dating Hispanics. Because a lot of conscious black leaders who promote this agenda, right, of being pro-black and pan-African, which means we keeping it in the race. That's what pan-African means. We're not only uniting all the Africans across the diaspora, across the world, but we're keeping it within it being, whether it's business, it's personal and business. We keeping it within African, right? And so African being something that you see, right? It's a phenotype, and we have, black people have included Mexicans or melanated people within that category of Africans being of African descent. We all of African descent, right? Even white people, but in terms of color, and this is not what I created, I'm just telling you guys what it is that yes, the black community is more accepting of Hispanic and people, as long as they identify themselves as melanated or African, then they part of the family, so to speak, right? So I don't think it's an issue. It's not an issue for black people to date Mexicans, right? Now the thing is, if a Mexican phenotypically looks white, because I was surprised to see out in LA, You'll be surprised. You like, it looks white on a surface. Like LA just looks white, very whitewashed, right? But then you begin to talk to some people, interact, and you hear the accent. It's like, oh wait, you Hispanic? They don't even know what the fuck they is, because they are socialized to adapt, to assimilate to the dominant culture and be white, talk white. The hair is different. The skin is a lot lighter. They have, kind of stepped away from parts of their own culture to embrace and adapt the aspects of the dominant culture. So they come off as like they white. And it's just like, but you Mexican. You're not white. You Mexican, clearly. But whatever. People can be what the fuck they want to be. Whatever. So to that, I mean, I don't see how the interracial aspect of this relationship is problematic for her family or the black community at large, necessarily. Depend on, I don't know, I guess it would depend on your shade. It's unfortunate, y'all, right? Listen, I didn't create fucking racism. I was born into it. But yeah, it's like the paper bag test, right? It's like, if you darker than a certain complexion, then okay, you cool. You know what I'm saying? If you on a lighter side, and depending on like how you interact with her family, it's gonna, impact how you're treated. Because even though a lot of black leaders, pro-black people have kind of adopted Mexicans and Puerto Ricans and people from the Caribbean island into this family of African, there still is a distinction being made. And I think the distinction happens when these events happen within our society. Let's say a black man is killed. And I experienced this myself, right? So I know I've shared a story where I've come to you guys and shared my experience dating a Puerto Rican. Now, he was a Puerto Rican here in New York City. This is recent, like within this year, actually, right? Lives in the Bronx. But on the much lighter, I'm talking about light, like pale fucking light Puerto Rican. He could really pass as white except for his hair texture. His hair texture is kinky. It's black. But we had some friction, and it comes up. This is the thing that you'll know. Issues come up, and that's when those issues come up is a determining factor of how, you deal with the race part of it, right? Because people say, oh, it's just a color. Color doesn't matter, right? Or race doesn't matter. But then it does matter. And I'm going to tell you how, very quickly, how, we went to the museum in New York, near the Central Park. I think it was a Museum of New York History or something like that. Museum of History of New York or something like that, right? Museum of New York. I think that's what it is, right? Near Central Park, I think, closer to like the west side. And there were some exhibits of events that have happened, African American history, right? Recent events like George Floyd, Trayvon Martin. And so the names were on the wall, and of course I stopped. The exhibit caught my attention, and relating to the events of what happened, something that impacted a lot of African Americans, because we see ourselves in these characters that are promoted on a global scale and perpetuated in the media. Like, they're made big figures, right, in the media. And so the guy I was with, the Puerto Rican guy, he comes up and looks at the exhibit with me and reads off the name. Oh, Trayvon Martin was killed, da da da. And then says, all right, so. Yo, that was it. That was it. That was it, yo. That was it. I'm like, so? He's like, yeah, like so many other people get killed. He was like, and he started naming names and stuff like that. And I'm just like, but it's not about that, though. Yes, we know so many other people get killed, including Puerto Ricans, blacks, and this and that. But he's a representation of those people. So you got to look beyond the surface of, oh, his name. His name is a representation. His life was a representation. His killing was a representation of all the other black and brown people who are killed, or colored people, whatever you want to call us, that are killed unjustly. And I took offense. That shit hit hard. I'm just like, nah, that's what separates us, right? So like I said, like, we are the same family in some situations, but then there's a divide, because if you don't relate, you don't relate. Now I bet you if it was a Hispanic person who the exhibit was about, you would have identified and connected and felt remorse. He had no remorse. He was like, so Trayvon Martin, so, like, yo. And I get it. New Yorkers are fucking honest, yo. That's one thing I can appreciate about New Yorkers. They're not going to hold back. They're going to let you know how they fucking feel. They don't give a fuck about how you feel in respect to how they feel. I can get that. But at the same time, if that was a Hispanic Puerto Rican whose life was up there, right, and seeing their tragic death, like, he would identify with it. His reaction wouldn't, so it wouldn't be that, because he can connect, he can resonate. So that's what I mean by that's where the divide comes, because yes, we can be of the same descent, but at the same time, we have different experiences, even within the melanated population, right, of black people. You got black people born in the U.S., you have black people born in Nigeria, and we can relate on some aspects, but a lot of aspects we just cannot relate on. We're different. And they don't know our experience as African Americans. They don't understand. They don't have empathy for it. And that's a big problem. If you do not have empathy for someone, then you become their enemy. You become an enemy to that person. It's just like, no one wants to be around that, right? So going back to this email, it can make sense, because oftentimes the black community is just like, they meaning you're different. You're Mexican. You don't know my experience. You don't know my story. So let's say when news stories pop up, these events pop up on social media, and of course there's a discussion created around it. How you respond to those events as a Mexican is going to impact how her family sees you. And even if you try to show empathy and be like, oh man, that's fucked up, and then you get mad, just like, you kind of mirror their emotion in response to stories that happen, you might be able to, develop a connection with them, but then they might say that it's still fake. You're not one of us, so you don't really know us like that, and you can't relate. That can be an issue, right? But in terms of you guys practicing cuckolding, I don't see how that is necessarily a major problem, because that's something that you do in your bedroom, which is more so private. So why would they even need to know that you are allowing her to fuck other men? I mean, let's take you out of the picture. She gonna fuck other men regardless. Is that any of her family's business that she's fucking different men? I mean, it could be, because you said, okay, if she has a close-knit relationship to her family, because all families are different, right? You have, within some families, they're very enmeshed, very close-knit. It's almost like we all have the same mind. We have to be all on the same accord, eat the same way, dress the same way. Whereas other families are more differentiated in terms of their individuality as members within that family. And it's not to say that they don't have unity, that they can't come together. It's just that they respect each other's individuality and their own choices that they want to make with their life. So if, let's say, the parents, believe in dating within the race, and that's what they did, good for them. But if their children decide, I don't want to date within a race, I'm open-minded, I want to do something different, they let them do that, right? So those are families that are more differentiated in their identity. And I think, and even research has shown that those families tend to be more healthier, is more adaptive, because it goes along with what's real, right? Like how life really plays out, versus families that kind of try to force you to think and act the same, and they don't want to see you go off and do something different, right? Like, for example, with my situation, right? I'm like first generation fucking college grad. Not only that, but graduate school and PhD grad. And so it was difficult for me going off to school. Now, my family verbally will say, you know, congratulations, you know, happy. But you can still see some, like, there's tension there because I left. The mere fact that I left is like a betrayal against the family. It's like, and I'm left to go do something with my life, something positive, right? I didn't leave to go do something bad. I left to go do something good, but even in that leaving, it's just like separation. That distance kind of creates tension, you know, and they look at it like, almost like you've betrayed the family. And I thought that it was something that only I experienced, you know, or like within the black family we experience. But no, this happens across different cultures. I learned that from a class that I was taking, and as part of my program out in LA. It was group therapy. So the group therapy class basically kind of simulated the experience of group therapy. You're in a group with other people who have issues. You got issues, and there's a therapist that kind of guides the group. But you begin to really know more parts about yourself and your interaction, how you interact with the other group members. That tells a lot. And so what came up was this common experience that most of us had as graduate students, where we opened up and talked about our family's reaction to us pursuing a PhD. And how difficult it was, because most of us, you know, we in LA, but that's not our home. You know what I'm saying? Most of us are very far away from home. Some in a different country than their home, right? And so, me being on the other side of the fucking country, and a lot of other my classmates, you know, sharing that same experience, I come to find out, like, it's difficult, you know, but at least I'm not in it alone, because other people, you know, including people from other races, experience the same thing. And it's kind of sad, and we kind of all shared, you know, in our tears, unfortunately, how, you know, our family just don't get it. And it is a sacrifice. Unless you're in a PhD program, or, you know, in a medical program, training to become a doctor, you just don't get it, right? You have to go through it to get it, but they don't get it because it is a sacrifice. And we have to develop a degree of focus. It takes a lot of focus, and with that focus, you're not really attending to your family like that. I would call home and check on my family, my mom, my dad, my sister. I call home and check on them, but my focus is there, and it has to be, right? Because there are issues that surface within the family, you know that. And if you're so, like, embedded in whatever issues that the family is going through, right, because you're, you know, there to support, you risk what? You risk getting off track with the program. And so, I mean, it is what it is. It comes, you know, it's a compromise. The medical students go through the same thing. Like, it's a lot of hours studying. It's a major commitment. That's all I can say. It's a major commitment. People don't understand, you know, and you have to be devoted. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of energy, you know what I'm saying, to do that kind of work, to work towards a PhD, right? You know, and then you graduate, and it's just like, okay, family, they're happy for you, but you're like kind of feeling a certain kind of way, like, you left us. And you miss out, right? You miss out on a lot of, like, family activities, different things, you know, whatever comes up within the family, there are issues that pop up. You're not really a part of that, you know? So, yeah. It's almost like you're an outsider in a way, you know? So I'm going to visit my family pretty soon, very soon. We'll take you guys with me, and, you know, it is what it is. Listen, I'm fit for whatever. I mean, you have to be fucking strong to survive a fucking PhD program. You know, the shit hard as fuck. It's hard, you know. But here I am. So we're talking about me leaving to go pursue something that is good, right? And you think that it has a good reflection on the family, me going to get a PhD, but yet it still creates problems. So I would imagine, yes, engaging in this kind of relationship, right? Cuckold relationship. Of course. I mean, unless the family is out there, having fun, exploring their sexuality, unless there's someone within the family that can identify with what you're doing, which I would not be surprised if there was, but I don't know what her family looks like. Every family is different, right? So when we talk about the Black community, we have to know that there's so much diversity within the Black community that we're not all the same. You got some Black families that like they turned up, right? They turned up. It's all kind of shit happening. You know what I'm saying? They're in and out of jail. They got having babies out of wedlock, having teenage pregnancies, all kind of shit, drugs, all kind of stuff is happening. You got some families that, it's stuff happening, but they try to give the, facade that they're well-to-do. And no, we don't do that here. We're educated. We're elite. But there's still some stuff going on underneath the surface. So I don't know what her family looks like. But for you to even write this email, it makes it seem as though maybe you don't really know much of what her family is like. And that's something that maybe you can explore to see. You don't know much of her family because it's just, it's kind of confusing, right, with this email. Like, you've been married 10 years, that's long enough time to get to know a person's family. You should want to know her family because her family, like, she is a reflection of her family. She comes from her family, to know that this is the group of people that she was surrounded by, right, that played a major role in her development when she was younger and as she got older, and who she is, get to know who her family is. And you might find that shit, they got their own stuff. Because the thing about taboo activities, people keep it a secret. So how would you know if they can relate to your relationship, your Coco relationship? Who the fuck knows what the hell family members and people in her family are doing, right? They probably got something similar going on, but you just never know. So I think in being courageous, bold, confident within yourself, but you mentioned that you're not a dominant, strong man. But just because you're submissive don't mean that you don't have courage, right? To just explore, to get to know people in her family. And once you make that one connection, because all it sometimes takes is just that one connection with one family member who can identify with your situation. And then you got that in, right? You got that in, and you establish that hook. It's just that one, But if now you're afraid to do that, and you feel like you're on the outside of her family, wanting to be accepted, and you probably feel like her family has a major influence over her. And so it's almost as if your relationship, even though you've been married to her for 10 years, is like, it doesn't really exist. You don't even exist, right? You're just like this other person that she's with, but you're not really accepted into her family. And if you're okay with her being attracted to the dominance in the bedroom from other men and coming back to you and receiving the love part, if that's okay with you, there's nothing wrong with that. But it just sounds like you are struggling with her family, and that could be problematic. But if y'all been together for 10 years, like, to me, I don't see how that's an issue. If y'all been together for 10 years, so what to hell with her family? Like, if y'all are having fun, I guess I'm struggling because personally, right, this is my own personal perspective. Not really a professional perspective, but my personal perspective. I don't give two shits. Like, I know I said I do in terms of, like, the Black community at large, and of course my professional reputation and trying to uphold a certain position within the black community, right? And how dating outside my race could rupture that relationship or that reputation. But in terms of like on a personal level, like who I date and my family caring, I don't give a fuck. I do. Listen, my life is my life, right? My life is my life, and what I do with my life, that's what I do with my life. So in terms of my own personal situation, not me dating outside my race necessarily, because like I said, I haven't, in terms of dating a white man. But in terms of my alternative, my proclivity to alternative lifestyle and practicing BDSM, I don't give two shits if they like it or not. I like it, so that's all what matters to me, right? So that's just, my own personal perspective on that. And I feel like, as an advocate for people just being free, live your life, like, you have to live your life. And if you feel like, okay, it's going to come at the consequence of not having or understanding, I guess, with her family, like, how is that problematic? They're not gonna like you anyway. Like, so just be yourself, If they like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. And you don't need family, her family anyway, to accept it. But you do, I feel like you do need someone to understand, right? And someone to hear, and someone that you can share this experience with. So having said that, that's why there are support groups, right? As family is frequency, which means it may not be by blood, right, or in-law, but it's just by who is on your same frequency, who vibrates to your mind and the things that you are attracted to. There are so many groups out there. You got to find your tribe. Or if you can't find your own tribe, create one, right? And attract other people who can resonate with you, who you do feel supported by, because that's so important. I think people undermine the importance of family, so to speak, or a supportive group. They undermine that, but it does, kind of help to solidify who you are as a person, your self-concept, right? Because you can, for so many years, be at war with yourself because your way of seeing yourself is heavily influenced by how other people see you. Oh, they don't like me, or they don't like this, and they don't accept me, right? So you internalize that and you feel all fucking insecure and ashamed. Is that how you're supposed to live in the world? Hell, fuck no. But if you're around people who share in your experience, they encourage you, they help validate you, it gives you a sense of acceptance, right? And you can just be. You can let down the guard and just be yourself and have fun, and you and your wife can enjoy it, and you can share the experience with other people, right? And feel validated and accepted. And it strengthens your concept about yourself, right? It helps to reframe how you see yourself. That's important. You want to hold yourself to a high dignity. You're supposed to look at yourself in a positive light, not, it's like, I shouldn't be doing this, oh my God. Like, fuck that. No, that's not how you're supposed to live life. I think that answers your question. I know that in the Hispanic community, it is more conservative when it comes to this, but I have actually met other Hispanic men in this type of relationship. Exactly. So you've met other Hispanic men in that type of relationship. Those are the men that you want to click to, right? At least that y'all have that in common. Y'all may have other things that are not in common, but you have that in common. So those are the men that you want to develop a tie to, because y'all can relate to each other. You know what I'm saying? Come together, have like a support group, have meetings, even if it's just once a month or whatever. People are meeting on Zoom now. It's very convenient. You even have to be in the same city to do it, but I think that is important. Understand the importance of having that support group, having other people who you can relate to when it comes to this cuckold lifestyle. You say, but to me it is more rare to find a black woman in a relationship, or maybe just like me and my wife are, we are more private about our relationship. You're private. And maybe that's the reason we don't hear about it as exactly because you're so private about it. He said, I would appreciate your opinion. Thank you for all your content. I'm a big fan. I will continue to watch. Take care. Yeah, you're private. So as long as you stay so private, you're so private. I mean, I understand why you're private about it because who needs a judgment? It's just like, that's why when I said I don't really care about what my family thinks, it's not my business to be telling my family like, oh, I'm into BDSM. You know, they're not into BDSM. Why would I even go and talk to my sister or my cousins or, you know, like they're not into that, right? Why would I even bring that up with them? Because I know they're not into it, you know? So I'm private in that respect, but clearly I'm not private about it. So they have this. My videos are public on YouTube and Facebook. They have access, so if they want to see. And they probably watch my videos. I don't know if they watch my videos. I really don't care. But if they do, and they have something to say or, you know, share their opinion, as long as it's respectful, then all right, I'll accept, I'll listen. But you gotta live your life. Your life is yours. On that note, I'm going to end this video. Feel free to leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about it. I mean, that situation, it sounds like a lot going on, though. And I know that there's something that you haven't really shared. That's why I really can't put my finger on it, because it's something that is missing from that email. Because it's not quite making sense to be with someone for 10 years. Right? And you say that I know the cuckold relationship possibly is relatively new. Maybe you guys just stepped into it within the past 3 to 4 years. But what's going on though? What is really going on? Like, why do you feel it's even relevant to talk about it with her family or be accepted? Or why do you even care about what her family thinks? What is happening? That's the part that's missing. So if you want me to make a part 2, I can address it in part 2 of the video. Just hit me up. Catch you guys later. Love you guys. Oh, come back. I'm about to grab me something to eat, take a little break, and I'm going to come back. I have a whole nother freaking video. Yo, this is good, you guys. As long as you guys keep sharing interesting stories, topics, I'm going to keep coming back. I love this. I told you guys. I love it. I love you guys. Catch you guys in the next one.